No, sir. If you would go open the poll, the roll call, whatever, open the board for.
Somebody had money. Moving like a caterpillar.
All right, close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
The first bill we're going to deal with is Senate Bill 1265.
I believe that you spoke to this bill sometime earlier in the year.
Mr. Chairman, I actually did speak to this bill. And Mr. Chairman, you had a couple of very good questions. And Mr. Chairman, your questions were on Senate Bill 1265, since I can't get my iPad to work. Your questions were, if an individual was flying to a mission, dropped his bomb, and then on the way back, that airplane or that vehicle or that whatever that was carrying the individual to or from a combat mission, was that still considered, thank you, was that still considered a combat death? And Mr. Chairman, I know that the subject matter experts that were here at the time did not quite have a good answer for you. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm here to tell you that I actually researched it, and it goes back to Joint Pub 1-02, which is a Joint Chiefs of Staff joint pub. And in that pub, it states that it's considered a combat-related death if an individual goes from wherever their point of departure is to the mission and back, anywhere in that route. And let me give you a good example, Mr. Chairman. So if a
Quick example.
B-2, quick example, if a B-2 bomber, stealth bomber, left Missouri, went all the way around the world, dropped bombs, and then all the way back to Missouri, and he ran out of fuel and fell out of the air in Illinois, it's still a combat-related death, sir. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I hope we pass this bill unanimously.
And that was a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, record your votes.
Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day.
All right. Okay. All right.
That's the one just scooting out on the committee.
Senator Martin, it's 1098.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Senate Bill 1098, as you might remember, this was re-referred from the floor back here to the committee, and I would think that ill-advisedly this bill was amended in finance to take out the gross receipts of goods and equipment. And the reason that needs to be in the bill is, suppose you are a company and
We got it.
okay,
Yeah.
you're good there, and but I think this needs to go over to the other body, and what I would ask the committee to consider is the one thing we didn't talk about, and that I didn't talk about with the sponsors of the bill, is the fact that the gross receipts thing takes care of the inflation issue with $10 million. It really deals with that, but businesses are so much more efficient now. 250 employee companies can probably do the same thing today with 150 employees. We used to have people in clerical functions and things like that are no longer needed. I think if we adjusted that number down, and I'm not sure what that number is, but the reason we need this bill is that 95% of all businesses in Virginia are defined as small. When everybody's a small business, nobody's a small business, and we're really, really hurting the genuine small businesses in this state. And all this bill does is change it from $10,000 or 250 employees and less to $10,000 dollars of revenue and be under 250 employees. So that's the bill. I hope we get it back out of here and onto the floor. I'd like to argue it in another body at another time, and I'd ask that you give the bill good consideration. We'll never get anybody to agree, on what
Considering-
a small business is.
Considering what the House has already done, I'm not sure you're going to get a lot of arguing done over there, but Chris, did you want to speak to this? We know what you're going to say, but you can speak to it.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Chris Stone, licensed professional engineer, business owner, and I'm not a small business owner. I appreciate you hearing me out on this. I know it's been a long day. As long as you were sitting on the Senate floor, I was sitting in this chamber. So, you know, one of the things is we've tried for the last 6 years to get this through both the House and the Senate. It's something that I have seen in my business in state procurement. There's a lot of abuse in the system. And so changing the definition, and it's a simple word change. It's or to an and it's also excluding $10 million in goods that are sold by any company. And essentially what that does is it defines what really is a small business in the Commonwealth today. This is something that, you know, shouldn't be viewed as, you know, perfect, but I don't think we should make kind of good as the enemy of perfect. And so this doesn't affect women, minority, or small business certifications. It really just deals with the small business certification. And anybody that opposes this that comes up here, just ask them what their annual revenue is and then judge for yourself as to whether or not they're a true small business or not in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we're really trying to do something to restore the legitimacy in the program. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Nicole Riley with NFIB. We just have some concerns with moving forward at this time. JLARC actually came out in December and made it as one of their top study subjects for the next year to look at the Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity and included the definition of small business. We appreciate what Senator Marsden is doing here. I think a lot of folks do agree that something needs to be done with the definition of small business. It's just that there have now been a lot of options that have floated even within this last even in the current General Assembly session. And we'd prefer to let JLARC be able to take a chance to look at those, see how they would be impacted, just to make sure that we aren't going to have any unintended consequences. So for that reason, we would ask not to move the bill forward. Thank you.
You would expect JLARC to come with some reasonable categories of how many dollars and how many employees would better qualify as a small business?
Yeah, I think there's definitely the opportunity there for JLARC to be able to look at that and to take that in consideration. And like I mentioned, there were some bills that dealt with changing it to 5 categories and looking at that, which we have talked about with our members to try to see if that might be a better approach as opposed to what Senator Marsden's talking about. Or potentially maybe it is a good approach to go that way. We're just not right sure at this point in time. Thank you.
Okay. Rob?
Mr. Chairman, Rob Bohannon, representing the Richmond Area Municipal Contractors Association, and our concerns are too, because, and I very much understand what Senator Marsden's trying to address, and I've heard a lot about some of the abuses, but in an industry like heavy construction, you really can't, you need the labor. It's a labor-intensive industry. Obviously, if you're moving a lot of earth, you're building a data center or something like that, and a couple of projects can very quickly get you up past that $10 million mark. And one thing that one of our members mentioned to me the other day is said, if they all of a sudden were not a small business and then you had a small business set aside as part of a contract, you would then have to work that they could do and complete that might be $8 or $9 million. You would have to then get several different contractors in there to complete that work that would qualify as a small business, and that would lengthen the term of the project, likely increase the cost. It's kind of hard for several contractors to get onto the job site at the same time. So, understand the intent here, but I know just from the heavy construction industry, it's a big issue and a big concern because it is so labor intensive.
Thank you.
Just to close out very quickly, this was the result of a study that was done at VCU by the small business folks here in the administration. My understanding is what JLARC is going to do is take a look at comparing us to other states as to what they do, not trying to come up with a definition. So I think we need to get this back on the floor, back over, but I would ask that we include the gross receipts and put that back into the bill, that be excluded from the $10 million calculation.
Senator Marsden, since I carried the bill 2 or 3 years with a little more interest in it than just the dollar amount, I'm I'm a little torn, but I don't think we're quite ready, but whatever the motion I hear,
Move to amend.
motion was to amend the bill to, Amigo?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the amendment that I think that Senator Marsden is speaking of would require two amendments. The first would be at line 55 after 3 years, I think, to reinsert that language that was stricken. And the second amendment would be on line 90 after 3 years to reinsert. And the reinserted language would be gross receipts shall not include the cost of goods and equipment.
Properly moved and seconded that the bill be amended that way, which could really get us in an interesting conflict if JLARC has a different conclusion. Would you have any objection to a reenactment clause?
No, sir, I don't. I just think that, Mr. Chairman, I just think that this, deserves some brief discussion on the Senate floor to familiarize people with something I know what's likely to happen across the hall, or down the hall. But the issue with the JLARC thing, I'd be fine with a enactment clause.
Mr.
Make
Chairman?
that motion?
Yeah, I move that we have a reenactment clause for whatever the appropriate time is, a year later, I guess it is, so next session. And I just want to say, this has been going on for about 15 years. I think I put it in 15 years ago. I don't know that I was the first, though. I know the chairman's been perfecting it, so I hope that we'll move forward.
All right. Properly moved and seconded that the enactment clause be added also. All right. Is there a motion? Properly moved and seconded, the bill be reported. Any further discussion? Record your votes.
Ayes 7, no 6.
Okay. Senator Searle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1539 has to do with child support and the gig economy. It's a bill I put in last year. The court's guys wanted me to make some tweaks to it, which I did. Brought it back this year, amended. DCSC asked me to carry this bill last year. Basically, right now, a court can order child support to be withheld from an employee's paycheck if they're a W-2 employee. But if they're a 1099 employee, there's no legal authority for that. And everybody with Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, whatever, they're all paid by 1099. And there's a lot of other states, they've noticed that a lot of people that don't want to pay their child support go get jobs with these gig economy types so they don't have to pay their child support. So the bill basically does two things. One is it authorizes child support to be withheld from an independent contractor. The second thing is it requires all new independent contractors paid more than $600 be reported to the Virginia Employment Commission New Hire Center. I think that second part is the part which is giving people some heartburn. It came out of courts, I think, unanimous, but then some issues were raised about that reporting of new independent contractors to VEC. And I think if we made that amendment, I think the heartburn would go away. I think to take that part of it out, you'd have to strike, I think it's lines 452 through 507. And
So you're making that motion?
yes, sir.
Properly moved and seconded that we eliminate that section. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Senator Serville, so these are folks who would get a 1099. Would that still apply to 1099 employees, or?
Yeah, if you amend the bill the way I'm suggesting, new 1099 hires would not have to be reported to the new hire center anymore. But if an employer got a payroll withholding order, if an
Through
employer,
the court to garnish wages?
then they'd have to honor that.
Okay.
So,
452 through 507, and I guess technically on line 508, the enactment clause would have to be changed from 3 to 2.
sorry, I can't hear you. Use the mic.
No, this would only strike the amendments to the existing code. It wouldn't strike the existing code. No, we just no deem those code sections in the bill anymore.
Senator Black.
I'm just thinking of the mechanics. I don't have a problem. Thank you. I don't have a problem with the idea, but people who do the 1099s are not always the most sophisticated. So when they get this charging order, does it instruct them how much to withhold and that type of thing?
Yeah, the order says on it the percentage, the maximum percentage you're allowed to withhold from each check. That's in the order, because there's a maximum amount. I forget what it is, like 25% or something like that. It's in the order.
What
It's a
is it,
standard
like
form order we
monthly-
use.
Is it a monthly withholding or
It's whenever.
the charging order? Would it say, okay, in the next month, you're going to pay 30% or whatever, or withhold?
Right now, there's a form order that the Supreme Court has promulgated that people to be used, and I assume that the form order would have that. I mean, obviously with W-2 employees, you're paid either bi-monthly or
Right.
bi-weekly or whatever, and it says in there's a maximum amount per month they're allowed to withhold out of your paycheck. And that's stated in the order that the employer gets.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Senator Searle, was this before courts earlier this year?
It was before courts. It reported out of courts unanimously, and then it went to the floor, and then Senator Obenshane said that a few stakeholders had concerns about the new hire reporting piece, which is why it got referred to this committee, and that we just struck that out.
Okay, I didn't know it was a bill from last year or some year past. Okay, any further questions? Motion is to report as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Record your votes.
Ayes 10, noes 3.
All right, the next 6 bills are identical to Senate bills. They are 1853 from Bullivan, 1893 from Foy, 1964 from Helsel, 2030 from Bullivan, 2054 from Carr, 2287 from Leftwich. They match up with Senate bills that all passed the Senate 40-0. Is there a motion to do those in a block? Properly moved and seconded that those 6 bills be reported. You want to clear this board so we can vote? All right. Any further discussion? Hear none.
Mr. Chair, can we get, there we go. I just need 1 second to make sure.
3, 18, 19, 3. Ready?
No. Somebody went into second.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I don't see 1893 on the electronic docket here. 1898 is, I do not see 1893, Mr. Chairman.
My sheet says 1893, what? Amiga who?
Is it 1898?
I don't have 1898.
I think it's 1898, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr.
It's probably a typo.
Mr. Chairman, if we can pull out 1893
3 or 8.
or 8, and then
Take
just
care of
push
the other
forward.
5? Okay. So 1853, 1964, 2030, 2054, 2287. Any objections for those? Go in block. Hearing none. Record your votes. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is this the
Ayes
same?
13, no 0.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I think 1898 is the number, and it's the same as Senator Locke's bill that
Okay.
passed out.
Okay, that is correct. So report that one, 13-0 on the other 5. And so then now, House Bill 1898, FOIA, matches up with Locke's 1445. Properly moved and seconded. Record your votes. All right.
Ayes 12, no zero.
All right. That one passes. Unless somebody wants to sit around and do some more, meeting is adjourned.